Hello and welcome back to our Bible study in 1 Kings chapter 9. I'm so sorry for the short hiatus. It was impromptu and it was involuntary as well. I was having so many technical difficulties, so many issues, so many blocks that the devil was putting in my way to kind of prevent me from doing this. If you follow my Instagram, you'll see all these events in real time and I keep you up to date and explain what's happening. So if you ever don't see a video from me, go check on Instagram, and if Instagram's not working then we know blocks are real. But you can always email me at mywhitebible@yahoo.com if anything ever happens. So yes, we will not be stopped. We are going to continue and we're going to get in the word and we're going to share the word and we're going to understand the word and we're going to apply the word. So there, take that. Okay, right, let's get into chapter 9 then. And it came to pass, when Solomon had finished the building of the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all Solomon's desire which he was pleased to do, that the Lord appeared to Solomon the second time, as he appeared unto him at Gibeah. And the Lord said unto him, I have heard thy prayer and thy supplication that thou hast made before me. I have hallowed this house which thou hast built, to put my name there forever, and my eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. And if thou wilt walk with me, as David thy father walked, in integrity of heart. Actually, I might highlight these, so I'm not going to underline it yet. I like this. Integrity of heart, uprightness, and to do according to all that I have commanded thee, and will keep my statutes and judgments. Then I will establish the throne of thy kingdom upon Israel forever, as I promised to David thy father, saying, There shall not fail thee a man upon the throne of Israel. Ooh, okay. No, I am just going to underline this because there's just a few key things I want to highlight. So, integrity of heart, uprightness, and to do according that I have commanded, and keep the statutes and judgments. So that's what he was asked to do. He goes, look, just do this, and then I will keep my word, and there's not going to be a man on the throne of Israel that won't fail. So, I love that God comes to Solomon again in a dream. The Lord appeared to Solomon a second time. So he came to him in a dream and he responded to Solomon's prayers, because he did big elaborate prayers in chapter 8. So it's a very long detailed chapter, and he blessed the people of Israel and he made really detailed prayers. So God responded to those prayers with a promise, but also this is a warning as well, you could say. So in the first dream, if we remember, God promised Solomon wisdom and wealth, even though he didn't ask for wealth. He just said, I'm going to give you some anyways, because you asked for the right thing. And this time he said, I'm going to establish your throne, and a kingly line of David will last forever, providing that you walk in, you follow the Lord, basically. So, first time God offered wisdom and wealth. This time to establish the throne forever. I'm going to add the word warning as well. Warning to But if ye shall at all turn from following me, ye or your children, and will not keep my commandments and my statutes which I have set before you, but go and serve other gods and worship them, then I will cut off Israel out of the land which I have given them, and this house which I have hallowed for my name will I cast out of my sight, that Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among all people. And this house which is high, everyone that passeth it by shall be astonished, and shall hiss, and they shall say, Why hath the Lord done this unto this land and to this house? And they shall answer, Because they forsook the Lord their God, who brought forth their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and have taken hold upon other gods, and have worshipped them and served them. Therefore hath the Lord brought upon them all this evil. Right, so he's saying, if you, Solomon, or any of your descendants people who take over kingship after you, reject him and start worshipping these false gods, then he's going to reject the temple and he's going to cut Israel off the land. And then he would make sure everyone knew why that happened. So God gave a warning. For them to keep focused on him. Or heed. Reject the temple. So, you'd think after God had done all this and he'd literally come down into the temple and he appeared as that cloud, that's good enough evidence to see God is real. I mean, these people even believe God is real, yet they still turn from him. And then we see people today who are demanding evidence, like, prove to me God's real, prove to me God's real. I hear that all the time. And I'm like, even if I did and I showed him to you, there's a chance you would still reject him. So it's not necessarily even that people need to see him or have proof of him. There are some that they just will not follow him. They prefer the false fake gods. They prefer spiritualism, they prefer other religions, they prefer relying on themselves. That's also considered a false god. You're not a god. We're not gods. You can't just rely on yourself. And it's so interesting that because I can predict what's going to happen, because the temple is no longer standing today, so we can only assume one thing. But it's interesting how even these people in this day who saw the presence of God and were surrounded by him, even the people who saw Jesus, there are still people who didn't believe. And it's interesting. We can see back in Exodus where Moses led Israel out of the wilderness. They saw his miracles and he made sure they were fed, and yet they still continued to reject him. Continually. They just, despite knowing who God is and even believing who God is, they still then go and worship false idols. It fascinates me. I mean, I'm sure we all do at some point. We start to idolize things of the world, and then the good thing is we catch ourselves and we come back. But it's sad, isn't it? It's like, well, why do we do that? We know. Eyes on God all the time. It's interesting. So God would also make sure everyone knew why it happened. Okay. And it came to pass at the end of 20 years, when Solomon had built the two houses, the house of the Lord and the king's house. So here we can see, 20 years it took him to build them, and we know he started his kingship when he was 20. So at this point he's 40 years old, and he's about the midpoint of his reign. Now Hiram, the king of Tyre, had furnished Solomon with cedar trees and fir trees, and with gold, according to all his desire. As much gold as you want. That's how blessed he was in wealth. Then King Solomon gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee. Oh, that's how he paid him. I don't know if you remember in the previous chapter, I was wondering, how is he going to pay for this endless amount of gold and bronze that he's used in his temples? Because they couldn't calculate how much he'd used. And that's my answer. So he gave him lots of land. That's definitely valuable. And Hiram came out from Tyre to see the cities which Solomon had given him, and they pleased him not. Oh. He was not happy. Okay. And he said, "What cities are these which thou hast given me, my brother?" And he called them the land of Cabul to this day. And Hiram sent to the king 60 talents of gold. Oh. Okay, so I had to read what some of these things meant. Okay, so Apparently this is Solomon's not being as generous, considering, actually, yeah, I agree with that, considering Hiram was giving Solomon as literally all the gold he wanted. He was like, have it, have it, have it. And 20 cities is not comparable. And so Hiram called it Cabal, and Cabal means like nothing. Oh, savage. Like nothing is what that word means. So he's just like peanuts, pointless. So Hiram had given Solomon 9,000 pounds of gold. That is what six score talents means. 9,000 pounds. He didn't feel that was comparable to just 20 cities. Solomon, not as generous. So that's interesting. Is Solomon's character starting to crack at this point? He's done so well for 20 years. Are we seeing a turning point? Ooh. Okay. And this is the reason for the levy which King Solomon raised for to build the house of the Lord and his own house, and Millo and the wall of Jerusalem, and Hazor and Megiddo and Giza. For Pharaoh king of Egypt had gone up and taken Giza and burnt it with fire, and slain the Canaanites that dwell in the city, and given it for a present unto his daughter Solomon's wife. And Solomon built Giza and Beth-horon and Nether and Balath and Tadmor in the wilderness in the land, and all the cities of store that Solomon had, and cities for his chariots and cities for his horsemen, and that which Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem, and in Lebanon, and in all the land of his dominion. And all the people that were left of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, Jebusites, which were not of the children of Israel, their children that were left after them in the land, whom the children of Israel also were not able to utterly destroy, upon those did Solomon levy a tribute of bond service to this day. But the children of Israel did Solomon make no bondmen, but they were men of war, and his servants and his princes and his captains and rulers of the chariots and his horsemen. Those were the chief of the officers that were over Solomon's work, 550, which bare rule over the people that wrought in the work. Right, so we're looking at Solomon's workers here. Now this is implying forced labour. Now that's not good. This is forced labour here. And he got some of those workers from the Pharaoh, which was his father-in-law, because he captured the city and literally just took the slaves from there. So it's sad. So took the cities and used, technically it was the non-Israelites as slaves, but just because he didn't take the Israelites as slaves doesn't mean he didn't make them work as well. They were his soldiers and his servants. The Israelites were used as his soldiers and servants. So he's taken people by force and he's now making everyone just work. What happened to, like, just the previous couple of chapters ago, he was giving people twice as much time off as they were having to work when the temples were being built, and now all of a sudden that the holy places are done, things are adjusting. But Pharaoh's daughter came up out of the city of David unto her house which Solomon had built for her. Then he did build Millo. Yeah, she had her own house, even though she was his wife. And the 3 times in a year did Solomon offer burnt offerings and peace offerings upon the altar which he built unto the Lord, and he burnt incense upon the altar that was before the Lord. So he finished the house. But okay, so even though he was being shaky in how he was behaving here, he was still faithful in sticking to offering sacrifices. So faithful in offering sacrifices 3 times a year in obedience to the Lord. And King Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezion-Geber, which is beside Eloth, on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom. And Hiram sent in the navy his servants, shipmen that had knowledge of the sea, with the servants of Solomon. And they came to Ophir, and fetched from thence gold 420 talents, and brought it to King Solomon. So he was also famous for his navy. Solomon's but he did require Hiram's sailors, who helped them find gold. So they were hunting for gold with, let's write that, with the help of Hiram. So Hiram's actually helped him quite a lot. You can see how God places people in your life to bless you and to help you. And he indeed was blessed. We can really see the vastness of Solomon's kingdom, his fame, his wealth, his success in so many areas. He's had a really good run for the last 20 years. And we will see tomorrow whether that continues in chapter 10. Maybe it will. Maybe he might make decisions that will affect things. We'll see. Okay, it's so good to be back. You know, it's been 2 days since I've managed to record, and it doesn't feel right. I like reading and studying and being in the Word every day. I did still read some, but it's not the same because I was following a story here and I was really into it, and I didn't want to read on because I like my reactions to be authentic when I'm filming, because this is the first time studying for me. I have read the Bible through, but it was a very long time ago and I don't really remember everything that I read, of course, and I wasn't really taking in what was happening. So it is like I'm reading it for the first time. That's how it feels because I'm actually studying it. So yeah, I wanted those, I want my reactions to be genuine as I'm reading and studying as a newbie. So if you're also kind of new to the Bible, then this will help you too, because we're going through it together. And if you're not, and you're a seasoned reader and you know things, then you're really valuable too, because you can give me insights that I hadn't thought of. So we're helping each other as well. So yes, please do share your takeaways and comments if you have any thoughts about this. And join me tomorrow for chapter 10. Have a lovely day. Bye!